The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max, Monday Night Raw, review.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling to the Max's Raw review for July 31st, 2017. And of course, we are brought to you by W2Mnet.com. That's right, the place where you go find all your great wrestling needs, plus a lot more. Also, you can come find us at Formula1Mania.com as well. Don't forget to go ahead and rate, review, and subscribe over at Wrestling to the Max, wherever you get your podcasts from. Of course, if you use Apple Podcasts, hit that 5 stars for us. Make sure people know about us. Send a comment in. That just gives us a little boost and make sure other people get a chance to see what we're doing here. Also, hey, if you love everything over there at the W2Mnet.com, make sure you go subscribe at the W2M Network. That's right. All the same great content, but a lot more from a lot of other great wrestling podcasts and, of course, other great content as well. I, of course, am Gary Vaughan, and, of course, your host tonight is Mr. Sean Garmer.
What's up, everybody?
Sean, man, I am kind of really curious what you think about tonight's Raw. We've got some things going down, especially in that Fatal 4-Way we got looking forward to. They kind of gave us a sneak peek of some of the things we could possibly see there, and, of course, we get a little bit of stuff going on with Kurt Angle and the whole evolution of Jason Jordan, so we'll get into all that. So why don't we go get this thing kicked off, man?
Yeah, weird to be hosting Raw, but Paul is on vacation, so we gotta switch roles around here. But, yeah, so they're in Pittsburgh for this show, so Kurt Angle, of course, comes out to a big ovation, and then he pretty much just sets up the show. He just lets you know that Miz TV is going to have Jason Jordan on it. You got Big Show and Big Cass on a match, which winds up main eventing. And then you have Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, and Samoa Joe in a triple threat match. Man, that's another pretty big match that you're just giving away for free on TV, but that's what they like to do now. So, you know, he lets everybody in on it. He gets to throw his line in there about the broken freaking neck. I liked that the crowd played around with it, because if they didn't, it would have been just him doing dumb stuff. But then you have the surprise of Brock Lesnar showing up. Paul Heyman lets us know that there's a little bit of an extra incentive here that maybe throws a wrench in this whole who we think might win, or maybe it just kind of gives it away. But he pretty much states that Brock will leave WWE if he loses the championship at SummerSlam, because it's not fair that he has to wrestle in a Fatal 4-Way match instead of a straight-up one-on-one. And, you know, it's a pretty much stacked lineup that he has to wrestle. So, you know, Paul Heyman makes up a good point, but do you think that do you feel like this gives away that somebody else besides Brock's walking out the championship, especially considering that even on tonight's Bring It to the Table, they talked about the Brock Lesnar and John Jones possible fight? Or is this all a ruse, and they're going to do just like last time, and Brock's going to keep that title on him, even if he does fight?
Well, first I want to address Kurt Angle and that, kind of, throwing all the cheap pops out there for the Pittsburgh fans. They all love him anyway. I just thought that was kind of funny. He had to get in his little cheap pops there. It's good stuff.
He's comedy Kurt now, so. I
know, right? I mean, it's kind of odd and kind of weird. It also kind of lets us know that this guy is no spring chicken anymore. We can't relive the history and the old Kurt Angle. We have to understand he's old man Kurt. He's a good Uncle Kurt, if you want to say it that way. So there you go with that. Now, you know what? I'm really interested in this, and you saying that it threw a wrench into this, I think it's a perfect thought process because you just don't know those answers. And I would almost lean to say that it's more giving it away that he could possibly keep the title, only because I don't know that we really are going to get a chance to see him go back to UFC and do all that stuff. And this is really Vince McMahon, putting it on TV that, hey, there's a possibility, Brock Lesnar's at the door. All those rumors you heard are real. I don't think Vince cares. It's really about throwing in that extra incentive for him to get the fans to ask the questions we're asking. Now we're not just going to say, oh, Roman's going to get the title. It's just blah, blah. We're asking those big questions. And do we actually feel like Brock Lesnar could hold that title? Now today you feel like there's a big possibility he could. Or maybe you just kind of think the UFC rumors are true. So I don't know if I have a definitive answer on that. I kind of am with the rest of the casual fans on the fact that there could be any possibility, and that's good. I love that, Sean. I love the fact that I'm sitting here today asking those questions without really any clear thought process on it.
Well, I think what the deal was that apparently if he does fight, he would be fighting in December, right? So that probably means that we're either not seeing him until Survivor Series again, or maybe he doesn't fight at all until Royal Rumble, until after. Or not fight, wrestle again until after he has that fight.
Doesn't he have a year suspension, though? I thought he was suspended.
No, he has like 5 months left on that suspension. And if he went back in July, that means he'd be back. He'd be okay for that December show.
I thought he officially had retired from UFC.
Yeah, but he'd already served 5 months, or like 6. He'd already served like half of that suspension before he retired.
Okay, so before it was official, he served. Okay, that makes sense to me. See, I thought he had a full year. So
no, yeah, if he had retired like the moment that they brought that suspension down, then yeah, he'd have a whole year, but he didn't. He waited a while to actually, retire. So,
okay, so with that being said, and that being in mind, do we really feel like that Brock Lesnar, and he possibly could want to. I could definitely see his thought of, hey, I can get back.
Well, I was going to save this for the regular show. I guess we can do it on both. But you did have John Jones call him out after he won on Saturday. So, and then Brock Lesnar returned and answered on Sunday. So, there might be something brewing there, where they, Brock has it in his mind that this is what he's going to do. I'm sure it might be about money and about the contract and everything too, but I don't think he ever wanted to be suspended.
Oh, no, he doesn't want to be suspended at all. I don't think that was ever in his thought process.
I'm just saying he might have fought again beforehand if he hadn't been.
You may have a point there. I just don't. I'm really kind of curious about Brock Lesnar's psyche and what he's really thinking. And I think really what I get from him is he goes where the money's at, right? And if WB's paying him more money than UFC, he probably would stick to them. And if UFC's offering more money, well, WB, you'll have to wait till I'm ready. So, if that next fight that he could have had without a suspension was bigger money, that's great, but who would that guy have been? And I don't know. I don't know if it would be a championship, match or not, but it is what it is. We'll talk more about this in our episode of Wrestling to the Max Part 1 this week, but I think, storyline-wise, looking at Brock Lesnar and continuing forward, I don't think it would really hurt to have him lose the title at SummerSlam because he's not a full-time guy. He's not a guy that's going to represent the Universal title week in and week out on Raw. I think they kind of missed that. So if this is a possibility and it makes sense, I think it could be a great thing for Brock Lesnar to take that big hiatus away from wrestling and give that title back to basically WWE to, use, because he holds it hostage every time he holds it. I think that would be a great decision. And it would also be something, I don't know about you, Sean, that I think would be kind of a good thing, because then we can kind of forget about Brock for a while until he hits Royal Rumble or whenever the next opportunity comes. I think it would be a more positive thing than actually him holding it.
Well, I mean, it's up to them, right? We've been this long with him just holding the title and showing up when he shows up and everything else. So do you want to continue that, or do you want to finally have the title on a weekly basis and have it be someone that you see all the time? And I feel like this is a spot, whether you do Brock coming back in November or coming back at the Rumble, and maybe he wins the Rumble or something. I don't know. But I think this is a perfect spot for Samoa Joe to have a little title run. I just don't think you need to be giving it back to Roman already. I know that he's, he won in his match tonight and everything, finally beating Samoa Joe and everything else, but it's just, I think there's a perfect spot there for Joe to win the title, pin Roman. He's pinned Roman before, so it's not a big deal if he pins Roman. I feel like, or he could pin Brock, I guess, since Brock beat him already, so he could get a win back there. But I think the reason, the whole, it doesn't, Brock would have to lose without getting pinned in order for the total, it being unfair thing to hold true, right? So if Brock gets pinned, then he really has a whole lot less of a gripe than he does if, say, Joe pins Strowman or Roman. And I feel like Strowman doesn't need to get pinned. You need to keep protecting him, period. But I don't know. I just feel like Braun, he doesn't need that title run. It seems kind of silly. He needs to win the title when it's it's his time. Braun's not one of those people that he needs to be having one of those runs, but this might be the only time that you could legitimately give Joe a title run. He's earned it. Let's see what he does with it. He's so good. Let's see. I think you're going to get the fans being kind of giving a mixed reaction there, but it's just I just think it would be really good for the company to give him a chance.
I think so too, and hey, Sean, if that's what happens here, I will be ecstatic. I will be very happy. Paul and I talked about in one of the Raw reviews we did a while back before the last pay-per-view. It makes me want to buy that T-shirt. I really do. As soon as Samoa Joe wins the title, I want to go run out and buy that T-shirt because I'm so excited for him, and I think it's a big deal. I don't know, really, honestly, backstage how impressed they are. I hope they're very impressed. Joe's done an excellent job. You are spot on. This would be a great run for him to have. It would mean something. You would still have Roman Reigns chasing. You would still have Braun Strowman racing to try to get to that title and hold it. And I just think Samoa Joe, moving forward, being the kind of heel he is, especially if Brock Lesnar's out of the picture, he will be one of the bigger heels in this company, especially, since it is on the flagship show, Monday Night Raw. I think it's a really great deal, and if that takes place, I think they're going in the right direction. I'm really happy about it myself. I think, like you're saying here, me and you agree. Braun Strowman, not needed, doesn't need to hold the title. Roman Reigns, been there, done that. He does well for whatever he wants to do. So I think you're right.
Yeah, unless you're, for some reason, planning on switching Joe to SmackDown or something for that Superstar shakeup, then I just don't see a reason why you wouldn't have him win the title. If maybe let's say him and AJ switch or something like that, I think that would be fair. Certainly, if they want to do that.
It would be fair, but, it seems like Joe is just one of those big guys that kind of belongs on Raw. Now, I'm not saying you can't compete with the athletic guys on SmackDown, but I don't know. Right now, I've got this picture of, like I kind of have for Kevin Owens. I just feel Kevin Owens is out of place on SmackDown. I think he belongs on Raw. It's just weird to say that, but I don't know.
I just don't see them moving like Braun or Roman. I mean, I guess Roman's possible, but you'd have to move a pretty big guy. In both, in the literal sense, I guess too. If you're gonna move a guy like AJ to Raw, I mean, you're taking a huge chunk out of SmackDown. You got to give him something back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And losing John Cena full time on SmackDown too, that has affected that roster. So, that it's a lot more taking from Raw if you take a guy like AJ. You're right.
But anyway, that's what's nice about what they did here is they gave us more to talk about with that opening segment than I think anybody sort of imagined going in. You just thought this was a regular Fatal 4-Way. But see, here's the thing with the Triple Threat, which was really good. It was the best match on the show. Nothing wrong with it wrestling-wise. But they even mentioned it during the match itself. Well, you could see a lot of this during the match at SummerSlam. Now, granted, we're talking about 19 days away here. So there's plenty of time between then and now where you're likely to probably forget most of the ins and outs of this match and everything else. But that's the problem is you're taking away that first time viewing for everybody. You've now seen this on Raw, or people are going to have seen this more than the pay-per-view. Are they going to get pumped for the big situations like having a Joe and Roman face-off, and then having the Braun and Roman battle continue and all that stuff? Just, you lose a little bit of that luster when you already do the match here, but still, that match was really, really good. They got the steps involved. They really played up the Roman and Strowman problem, and that comes into play at the end, where Roman with a Superman punch knocking Strowman off and into the steps, and then Joe gets speared for the win. But how'd you like the match? And yeah, I know we've talked about it several times, but how do you feel about the whole doing this triple threat on a Raw?
I don't think it's an awful idea. I mean, it gives people a reason to kind of want to stick around and see the rest of the show. I am a little bit 50-50 on this, and it's kind of I hate to be in the gray area. I really do, but I've got to be in the gray area on this one because I see both sides so clearly. I definitely understand you need something to make people tune in, to get really invested in, and not only that, a match that is going to be pretty good. And it was good for the most part, and they did a great job using the stairs and all. It was just a fun match to watch. But on the other part of that coin is, how much did you give away? How much am I going to care about watching SummerSlam? I think the key in that is the fact that when you get Brock Lesnar involved, it's going to be a whole other ball game. I really feel that way. And, you're going to get Brock, getting in there here and there, but of course he's going to take his big breaks and be out too. So you probably will get a few repeat things here, but I don't think it's going to take away too much from the SummerSlam match by doing matches like this. And it was a lot longer than I expected, and I didn't really honestly expect a clean winner. I thought there was going to be some kind of disqualification or something else to kind of stop this match from actually being finished clean. But really, honestly, Roman Reigns walks away the way that WWE kind of likes him to walk away, and that's by finding a way to beat the bigger guys and come out victorious. And it is what it is, right? And I'm sure in a week or 2 weeks, some other guy is going to walk out. We saw Braun Strowman, I think, just last week or the week before, walk out, victorious. So Samoa Joe will probably have the next chance. It's just a round table that they're going to be going through until we actually get to SummerSlam. I'm not against it, but I understand the whole, I don't know if they should give away so much.
Yeah, that's the problem you're going to get with these triple threat matches. They went about 14 minutes. It goes in the middle slot, not at 8, not at 10, and they decided to go for having it be, it was what, at the 9 o'clock hour? Or 10
Something
o'clock
like that.
hour, sorry.
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
It was not they decided to not have the main event, not have a main event. So they wanted to make sure that people saw this, because it's not all the way at the end, and people might tune out and go, oh, I don't know if I can take another hour, to, all right, we're going to do it this early because we want people to watch this. And I think that's good in a way. You for sure probably got the most out of it that way and viewing wise, but again, you gave up a lot here. So hopefully when you get to Brooklyn, that crowd's hot and they still want to see all these combinations and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You did have some tag team title action here, as they did bring up the Revival having a feud with Matt Hardy on Twitter. Michael Cole dropped another sort of broken Hardy line that Matt used on Twitter, which I don't know if that's on purpose or just Michael Cole's reading a tweet and he just read them verbatim. But we know that Matt likes to use those even if he really shouldn't. But, hey, he's been straight up from the word go that he does not care anything about that whole legal situation. He's going to do what he feels like he needs to do. I thought this was a good match between Hardys and Anderson and Gallows. I think it actually needed the whole stuff to the outside and everything to kind of make it a bit more interesting. But I think you kind of knew that the Hardys were going to win. I sort of like this idea of maybe this is a triple threat. Even though, again, I guess Raw is just going to have multiple person matches, which I guess is fine. But it also freshens things up so you're not having Cesaro and Sheamus just, going out there and having to wrestle the Hardys forever.
Yeah, very true. And I mean, how many matches can we do, especially when it comes to titles of multi-man, right? And that would have been, just another addition to, those tag titles and all that. It's interesting. I think it's great. The Hardys get the big victory here and look great walking out of the show, especially, when the Revival's trying to beat them up too. But, really, I think it gets to be dangerous at times for us to see these matches over and over again, right? I mean, this is not the first Hardy's match with Gallows and Anderson. It won't be the last one we'll see with them with the Revival.
But they're probably the ones going against each other because you've got Ambrose and Rollins sorta, kinda, whatever, hinting at the tag titles.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't really, we complain a lot of times about how, especially on SmackDown and Raw to an extent, the women don't get matches where if it's not about the title, they don't get a feud, right? Mm-hmm. So it's actually good when you can have a secondary tag title or tag feud that doesn't involve the titles. Yeah, we've seen the Hardys and Gallows and Anderson already, but again, how many teams do we really have on this company?
That's the problem. I mean, that's the big issue. And we talked about when we were getting into the triple threat discussion with, the big guys, Samoa Joe, Strowman, and Reigns, are they overexposing it? Are we going to get any surprises? Well, that's kind of the same with this. I mean, we see these matches week in and week out. Is it going to be really any big surprise if we get a chance to see, the Hardys and Revival and the Gallows and Anderson? Is it going to be anything special? Blah, blah, blah. And I don't know that it is. And it's a shame that this whole tag team division in basically both brands are kind of weak and don't really have any just super amazing feuds and guys that really haven't gotten the ring together. That's the tough part here. And not this is bad. This whole thing was great. It made the Hardys look like $1 million. But, when you're talking about down the line, what's really they're going to be to surprise people. Not much, really. So, sure.
Well, I mean, we haven't really seen the Revival work that much with the Hardys, and I think it's sort of, in a way, like a dream scenario for a team like the Hardys to face the Revival, and then you add another good tag team when WWE lets them be, Gallus and Anderson. If you do get to have those three teams work with each other at the pay-per-view, I think from an outside, like, international crowd perspective, you got big teams from all over the place against each other. I mean, that's kind of a cool aspect if you're looking at it just from a on paper perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on paper it looks great. It's just that how invested are the fans going to be, and how invested are the fans right now in this? And I mean, for me personally, I'm not super invested. I like the Hardys just like anybody else, but I can't honestly say I have a lot of passion for this whole feud between any of these teams. So
the problem is, you'd say that the Revival should win, but okay, are we really going to go with a Rollins and Ambrose holding the tag titles? Because, you know, Cesaro and Sheamus are heels. Like, are we going to have two heels wrestling each other in a straight-up one-on-one match?
Yeah, exactly. And that's more the territory we find ourselves in because of the fact of, you know, not having very many opponents.
I mean, you could do it depending on the city. Like, you could do it on, you know, in New York the next night because you might get people that are rooting for either Cesaro or rooting for the Revival, but try to have that match in just any area. I don't know about that. You might have people that just are dead quiet because they're like, well, we're not supposed to cheer for either one of these guys. So
yeah,
that does
right.
kind of, I don't know. Should we what is your thought on? I know they're sort of playing coy about it, but like. And we know Vince loves these tag teams of putting two singles guys in a tag team. Is it good for the division to have two singles guys like Ambrose and Rollins come in and win the titles? And then lose them to somebody else later?
You know, I don't think it really hurts. They've torn apart so many tag teams that have come in as tag teams and weren't even kind of pushed together. You know, like, you know, let's take, you know, Gable and Jordan. I mean, those guys came in fine. Kaz and you know, Enzo. I mean, so he's definitely finds a way to, you know, make single stars out of the tag teams. I don't think that the reverse process of making singles into tags, I don't think it's such an awful idea. You need to almost because, you know, the tag divisions are weak. They just are. There's not enough talent there. I mean, if you had a tournament, you'd be done with a tournament in 2 episodes. So, I mean, there's not much there. So I think adding guys to this mix, just like what you've seen with Cesaro and Sheamus, it can work. And I think those two guys, you know, Ambrose and Rollins have worked well together in the past. I think they can work well now. And it tells future stories because, you know, they're not going to stay a tag team. They're eventually going to split up and other things will take place. So I don't think it's a bad idea, honestly. I think when you've got a division this week, I think it's a really positive thing to kind of, you know, find a way to strengthen it a little bit. And it's not the talent this week. It's not the quality. It's the quantity, if you ask me.
But I actually sort of applaud WWE for saying, all right, we really don't have anything for either one of you guys to do. So how about we do this thing with a Shield sort of reunion and you guys go and be in the tag division for a little bit until we find something, or say the Revival are going to come take it off you and then you guys split and all that. I don't know if I want to see another singles match between those guys, but we'll get to that whenever that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I'm sort of warming up to that idea. If they were to win the belts and hold them for a little bit, it kind of does build up the prestige of that tag title, because now you have two guys like Rollins, who has held, you know, the world tag titles before with Roman, just now holds it with Ambrose. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And Rollins did also wrestle Sheamus on the show. It went less than 10 minutes, but it was actually one of the better matches on the show. It's good. And actually, Rollins rolls up Sheamus for the win, and then they beat him up afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, what you get here is, something that'll lead you to believe, we're eventually finally going to see, Rollins and Ambrose get back together as a tag team. Maybe, not a long-term thing, but it's going to be something. And in this instance, I mean, you see, really, honestly, Rollins roll up Sheamus to get the victory, and he did it pretty quickly. So that, of course, brings all the hurt on him because he did that. But you have Ambrose making the save. Ambrose still not trusting him and all that stuff that goes into this. And I think it's interesting storytelling. I wouldn't say it's great storytelling, but I think it's interesting.
They do have that best hit segment later where Rollins like, what took you so long to get out there? It was like, well, you're the architect. You're supposed to have a plan. I kind of just realized that you really didn't have one after a while, and so it's like, oh, I might as well go out there. And he eats a bro kick for his troubles, but...
Yeah, I see, and I like all that. To me, that did add something to the story, and it makes you feel like you should care. Otherwise,
they should have more stories like that.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, you're not wrong on that. They really should, and they should build more, stories in that realm, and make these kind of common sense decisions take place. I look at this and think, once again, we'll probably see these two get together and finally, make a tag team. But the one thing you get a little confused on is they're not going to wear their same, Shield garb. They can't even use the Shield music because it's not theirs. It's Roman Reigns' now. So.
And they shouldn't either, though, because it's not really the Shield without Roman. It's just two of them.
No, I totally agree. And I think the Shield kind of thing is pretty much dead. And it's for the reason why even if they didn't have to worry about Roman,
I don't know if it's dead. I feel like they could make this go. If they make this go till November, and they keep teasing and teasing and teasing, wouldn't be surprised if Roman winds up like on their Survivor Series team or something like that.
And that's fine, but do you really feel like they're going to start wearing all the same clothes again?
Oh no, they're not. But they're not. The whole like they could come out to the music one time, and they're teasing us for something, right? Like. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They keep leaving pregnant pauses in there, making you think, leaving pauses so the fans can chant for Roman. I mean, I don't think they're doing that on accident.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. It's just the original Shield and the way they were and what they were about is no longer in existence. That part is dead. They could come back and reunite like any rock band reunites, right? It's nice to see them back, but they're not going to stay the same. They're, you could get Guns N' Roses back together, but they're not the Guns N' Roses you used to know. It's not the same Van Halen you used to know. It's a little bit old. It's a little bit weary, and that's what you're going to get here with the Shield. But is that a bad thing? No. It's just going to be kind of funny because now when you have Ambrose and Rollins coming out, it's going to be to Ambrose's music or Rollins' music. It's not going to be Shield or anything like that. So it's fun to pretend like, the Shield's back together and all that, but it's not really the case. So I think, overall, though, I think fans will get behind those two guys, be excited about seeing what they do, and then when they finally do make the next split, it is what it is. That's more storytelling that'll kind of follow. So I think, once again, this is a great idea to have these two guys get together and tag because they're doing nothing else. To me, it makes sense because where else are they going to be on this card or any other card? Just not doing much.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, but that happens with everybody after a while. Just not doing much. But at least they're trying to find something for them to do, and that's a positive instead of them just being on TV doing stupid stuff. Mm-hmm. So, not stupid because they've at least carried the storyline through with Akira Tozawa from 205 Live, and they started this thing with Daivari and Neville, and then, Daivari actually beat Neville to sort of claim who was the big guy in 205 Live. So now we have this, it's been set up for 205 Live, the Daivari and Tozawa number one contenders match, which they sort of play off here with a 6-man tag for Titus Worldwide against Tony Nese, TJP, and Arya Daivari. This was also pretty solid, hitting dives and stuff, which it's sort of the only time that the crowd really cared. But hey, at least they're not the ones involved with the no-fly zone, so that's okay. But it still shows that the crowd they know what they want to see out of these guys. Just WWE seems to not.
Yeah, they don't. And it's exciting to see some of these guys and see what they can do. But sometimes when you don't have the crowd behind them, it does kind of give you less enthusiasm about some of the things going on. You kind of have to force yourself to get excited about some things. But overall, I like a lot of these guys on the Cruiserweight division, and I really think that they've got some great stuff going on. And, I especially love the Daivari stuff. Like, this is something that's really cool, if you ask me, because it's not anything I really saw coming. And I think also Daivari's usually that guy in the background that got, kind of picked on or something like that. No one really pays attention, but being in the forefront and him making a lot of sense and being great on the mic and all that, to me, very happy about him interjecting him in all this. So I think this match was, good because it showcased all these different guys and put them in front of people's faces that don't watch 205 Live. But outside of that, nothing super spectacular. To where oh man, you got to see this match. I mean, it was good, but it was nothing super over the top.
Yeah, nothing super over the top, but it was fine for what it was, and it set things in motion for Titus Worldwide to keep rolling. That's good for them. And I did like that they played off the arm thing with Tozawa too, with Titus asking him and him having to yell, "I'm okay, I'm okay."
Yeah, I love that too. I mean, it's like, hey, let's really focus on this and let's see how he does it. You're right. He did a great job in that, and that's another one of those stories coming out of the 205 Live show that I've really, really enjoyed watching and seeing how it's progressed, and seeing what Titus O'Neil is all about and representing a guy that doesn't want to give up, who's definitely injured, who shouldn't be wrestling. It's really fun to watch, and I'm even really curious now. The Titus brand's expanding even more. It looks like Dana Brooke's going to be another member of that. So,
who?
Dana Brooke. It looks like
Dana Brooke's going to be. Oh well.
Yeah. So I mean, that's another addition to the Titus.
At least he's hitting all the points, right? He's got a cruiserweight. He's got Apollo whenever he shows up, which is never apparently, and then Dana Brooke. So, hey, good for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Smart man, that Titus. After this, I think the only sort of other hugely important thing, because it was a storyline that they spent so much time on, is the Miz TV segment with Jason Jordan and The Miz. I thought The Miz was really good here, as always. Jason Jordan obviously is not a great talker. And I thought he kind of brought some, he helped himself with the whole don't say anything about Kurt or I'll make you regret it thing. And then I thought the actual like belly suplex into everybody was, you could see that Axel and Bo had to like save it by running right behind Miz because they weren't going to be there at first. But at least they did, and it made it look like a big deal. I don't know if the crowd totally responded like they wanted it to, and I think that also hurt like me and everybody else watching, probably not totally buying into it very much. Also, his retorts to Miz were pretty bad. Like the whole, well, they're gonna cheer, they're gonna boo, and you know a lot about being booed, Miz. Like, I don't think he really cares about being booed, Jason Jordan. You need to come up with a better, like, jab at him than that. What an awful, awful jab. I don't know if they wrote all this for him or some of it he had to just go out there and ad-lib, but just, look, this is what you're going to get, right? The dude is inexperienced when it comes to having these segments, and you're going to have to sort of roll with the bad for a while.
That is the truth. And until he really learns and really gets his feet underneath him when it comes to being on the mic or, getting comfortable just in front of the camera in general, you're going to have these type things. It's really difficult for me because I kind of find this whole thing hokey, even though the Miz is great. I mean, the Miz is, like you said, always, ready to bring it, does a good job whenever he's, in front of the, the camera. But I think Jordan's still showing that he's young. He's still trying to work his way into this whole thing and find his vibe. Outside of that, though, I mean, I just don't know that I'm super thrilled or cared about what's going on here. I love the tease of, Miz saying, this whole thing is because of your daddy, right? Your dad is giving you opportunities and all this and talking bad about the family and blah, blah. So, I mean, that's a really positive thing. I love the fact that the Miz brings this up. And Jason Jordan, just his soft-spokenness and the way he kind of carries himself, it doesn't really excite you. Even when he stands up and tries to bow up to, the Miz, it just doesn't feel super believable. So that's going to be something we're going to have to deal with until he gets better.
Yeah, and I would assume WWE knows that as well, that he's didn't come into this with all the tools. He's having to learn on the fly, as many of these NXT talents do on the main roster. You learn a certain subset there. A lot of them get called up way too early because they need some kind of refresher, or you need to clear what's happening now is they're sending so many people to NXT, they have to clear the box. Like, you gotta, hey, we gotta move some people up the main roster because we gotta get other people on NXT. So, it's like that whole thing of, could Asuka finally show up after SummerSlam because they got a Mae Young Classic that's going to start pouring women in, and they got to have a place for them, or the men for that matter. We keep seeing men debut, and we haven't cleared out that box for some of them to be able to be there regularly. So. But, that's what's going to happen. This has been the case with these NXT talents for a while now. You talk about Dana Brooke, Gary, we don't see her much on TV, and Emma got her moment to shine last week, but she'll go back to sort of being nothing, and that's just the way it is when you got so much talent. But hopefully Jason Jordan makes the best of it here for himself, and it winds up as one of the more positive things from that. After this, we sort of just have a bunch of odds and ends. I know that Cass and Big Show was promoted, but this thing's been going on for a while, and I don't think a lot of people are totally into this. But let's start with odds and ends number 1. Bray Wyatt talks forever. And the only thing I got out of it is that he, he has this thing that he's going to bring out, and Yeah, he doesn't call himself a god, but he pretty much just says a bunch of nothing until Finn Balor comes out, basically pulling a Bray Wyatt, right? The lights go out, they flicker, make it seem like maybe the demon's gonna come out. Then he come back on, and he's there doing the Wyatt pose. Bray Wyatt laughs, and then he just hits the Pele, and yeah, then we get a big dive or whatever. It's just okay.
Yeah. You know, this is the same thing we deal with a lot, and I don't want to hound on this and keep hounding. The promo, sure. I mean, it worked a while back, and it's still.
It's just like, how can people? I don't know if I know that the deal is that pretty much Bray Wyatt writes most of his stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, can't they have a writer that looks at that and goes, "This means nothing. Give me something that I can actually hear and go, oh, okay, I get this." Right?
Mm-hmm. No. I understand where you're coming from, and I think that it would work if Bray Wyatt was like most people. I think that they like the thought process of having him make riddles and do different things. You have to solve the puzzle, and it's something that's, it's not something, all self-explanatory, and it's not always appealing to the ear, and sometimes it is appealing. But other than that, I just don't know.
What puzzle am I solving? A guy that never wins?
That basically, yeah. It's what you feel like a lot of times with him. I think that's what the problem is here too. I think we'd give the guy a lot more leeway with some of these promos if we actually believed he was mysterious, he was creepy, but he's lost way too much, and there's really not that much incentive to get behind the guy because he's done that. He's not really been given the opportunity to become a long-term winner. So it's a shame, and it's really hurt him. And this thing with Finn Balor, I guess, will be interesting. I would love to see it be great. I'd love to say it would be amazing, but I'm not guaranteed that. And not only that, we saw Finn come out and do a little stuff here to kind of, show you what, to be excited about, but not a whole lot. So kind of a tease you. But still, I don't know that there's enough there to just make you go, oh, this is going to be so awesome. There's really not. I want it to be. I was hoping for this feud for a long time, but as we sit here right now, I mean, it's just okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of just, it's better than the Rollins and Wyatt feud, at least. Which, that's not saying much, but
yeah,
still.
Oh.
So after this, this is not in order here, but I'm just going to talk about this. We have the women's segment for the show is basically Alexa Bliss getting interviewed talking about how she's excited to face Bayley at SummerSlam because she's beaten her many times. And Bayley doesn't have the killer instinct, and then makes fun of Sasha for losing to Bayley. And that now, Sasha's not here to watch Bayley get totally whooped by Nia Jax. Then this match happens. The thing is, we've seen Bayley and Nia Jax a lot. And this used to be this special thing in NXT. And it was, I think, special the first couple times on Raw. Now it's kind of just been there. And then also Nia Jax didn't help herself in this match. She almost dropped Bayley really badly. It just, yeah, I mean, Bayley wins by count out to sort of protect Nia, but, yeah.
Yeah, Alexa Bliss, that's great on the mic. That's no surprise. It kind of sets things up here. I think the surprise for me really was the fact that they didn't just allow Bayley to lose. Nia's too much, or Alexa Bliss gets involved. It's just too much, for her to handle. But other than that, I don't really, I don't know that I could say that I'm super excited about Bayley winning or losing and Sasha not being a part of this picture. I love, that they do mention Sasha. They, don't have her on the show, but they do bring her name up and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of positive. I'm really kind of curious, how excited people are going to be to see this big matchup, though. And coming out of this match, people seem to be kind of behind Bayley, but it wasn't overwhelming. The whole crowd didn't freak out when they saw her. It was just another person they want to see, mix it up and see what she can do. So I have some concerns about this women's division. I think there's a few things here and there that I would definitely change if it was me. But I get where they're going. Bayley getting another chance while Sasha's not here, I think it's a positive plan.
Yeah, it's certainly... Look, you need to have Bayley get wins, right, before she faces Alexa Bliss. It's kind of a fluky thing, but it's better than her losing.
Yeah, that's just it. And, it's a cheap way to win. It's not really anything that, you want to see her win by. But, I mean, if you're going to portray Nia Jax as this unstoppable force, you've got to find other ways to kind of trip her up where she's not able to get right back up and hop in to stop the count. So, I think they gave you what they needed to give you, and it should be commended that they're at least giving Bayley a chance and doing some things with other stars besides just sticking to 2 or 3.
It's what they do. So, I mean, I feel like harping on this is a bit moot at this point. It's until they decide to do this, change it. It's it's what they're gonna figure out here. And then we have this Elias, doing a song where apparently he grew up in Pittsburgh or whatever. I did like how he buried the town. That was funny. Then he has this stupid match for the Kalisto. I'm sorry. I was almost bored to tears.
Yeah, poor Kalisto. I mean, he has this exciting entrance.
Can you put the guy on 205 Live already? Just he's doing nothing on Raw. And you're just hurting his stock just being there. And maybe he said no, and that's why he keeps getting buried. I don't know, but
no, I can't do that. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a star. I just want to be mediocre. I don't know. Does he have in his contract that he's not able to do that, or just doesn't want to?
Well, I mean, I don't blame him. You go down there, and a lot of people don't care about you, but it's like people really care about you on Raw either.
Well, yeah, and I don't, see anybody trying to get him in the main event picture just because he's, the coffee, tables there and all this other stuff's in the right alignment. It's not the way it works here. You don't just get to go do all this stuff. I'd look at, this guy and say to myself, sure. I mean, it would be a perfect world if he could be like Rey Mysterio and get in the ring and do all the same things and be in the big picture hunt. But he's not. He has to kind of to understand this is a different era, different time, and he's going to get typecast. He's going to be placed in an area, and they're never going to put him probably in that picture that he may think he's going to do. So, to me, if he was smart, he would join 205 Live and the Cruiserweights, build a star stuff there, be a champion there, and maybe be a big champion there. I think people like him. I think the kids get behind him. Heck, his entrance music is kind of fun. So, I mean, why not? But, maybe it's the pride in him that, he may not want to do that.
Unless WWE decides that they're going to start bringing in more tag teams using some of the 205 guys, I just don't see how this is going to help him. He could still show up on Raw, and there's probably more likelihood he shows up on Raw as part of the 205 in a positive light than he does just jobbing the guys on Raw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just hate it for him. I do hate it for him because he is trying to do something and really wants to to be bigger, badder, and all that. But I mean, at this point right now, where he's at, there's just not enough space for him, and I don't know that the writers care enough to give him that big push.
I just really wish we could still get we could still get it, but it's just like, can we please get Tozawa and Apollo as a tag team?
Mm-hmm.
Just please. Like, your tag division needs new teams. I wouldn't be surprised if Tozawa doesn't end up winning the Cruiserweight title, and that's fine. But if he's not going to, and you have just Apollo just there, why not team them up? I mean, do they really only have to interact with 205 Live people now? Is it that's just so dumb.
Yeah, it is dumb. I don't understand all the thought process behind it. I really wish that those two would be a tag team as well, and get things going in a different direction. But I mean, I also understand that maybe WWE just doesn't like the mixture, or maybe they just don't have a reason to put them in a situation like that. So it'll be something we'll have to follow. I feel bad for both guys, really.
I do, but this is the world in which we currently live for these guys, sadly. But not to be outdone, we have a main event that goes 5 minutes with Big Cass and Big Show. Cass just runs down Big Show and Enzo. Enzo comes up and, talks crap about Cass again, like always. He talks about he's too real, so he'd even eat a banana peel to show that he's so real. Sometimes, Enzo, these jokes or these lines don't necessarily work. But you know what? I give you a lot of props for just coming up with something. But man, look, I thought it was okay. Just, I don't know, this match, man. What a just sour way to end your show. And then not to mention this whole last hour was pretty bad.
Yeah, you're right, and this is so weird to have, Kaz and Big Show as your main event. It's just so odd. I mean, we know this is not in the right order, but it is what it is. And they did do, some, bigger things than they would have if they would have stuck these guys an hour or two, but I don't know.
I mean, credit to them for mixing it up, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean, it still needs to be good. You can put whoever you want in the main event, but if you're just going to put them in the main event and they suck, then,
Well, yeah, and that's what's kind of happened here. And, I look at this as a match that, I guess needs to happen for them to move forward or do whatever they're going to do. But at the end of the day, I just look at this and say to myself, this is not a very long main event. This is nothing that really just maybe, jump up and down. I just didn't really have a lot of care about it in general. And that's kind of weird to say in that final segment, third hour. But I would have been happy seeing anybody come and be out of that successful. So who knows? But I kind of am tired. We talk about this all the time. I'm tired of kind of Enzo. He's still not doing anything, even though he's with Big Show. So it's, to me, this is not a
he's
really
like
win-win.
Big Show's hype man.
Oh God! And yeah, it's not needed. Is what bugs me. He just doesn't need it.
Hey, WWE wants to keep him on the main roster right now, so
yeah.
I mean, he's not really gonna be just going out there wrestling. Right? It's not his forte, so credit to them for that. I guess not having him just go out there and have matches for no reason.
Yeah, that's true. And Big Cass comes out of this looking good again, Sean, and that's the thing we have to keep watching is they keep putting him in good situations. And, I think that's kind of definitely a big sign that they want to work with, what Kaz has got and really grow him as a character. But in the end, it's really about
they
what
gave
the guy
Cass a
wants.
lot, but it's just
Hmm.
right now he's still kind of growing and getting through things.
Yeah, exactly. We're in the growing pains. We'll have to get over them.
Well, thankfully, the only thing we have left to do is rate this show.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think that they had some things in this show, sprinkled in here and there that really kind of made it interesting. I think that the triple threat, even though it was kind of a sneak peek to SummerSlam, I think that it was a pretty positive thing to watch. And I'm still interested in the cruiserweight stuff. They're still trying to put on a few things here and there to really keep me vying to watch 205 Live. I wasn't overly thrilled. That was fine. The main event was kind of weird, kind of changed around. I'm going to give it a 6. It was okay, but nothing super spectacular for me.
I'm going to say a 5. You had the really good triple threat match. You had a good match between Rollins and Sheamus. You actually had a good 2 hours of the show for the most part. Just that last hour, man. Whew, it was just... Alright, well, I'm going to start falling asleep part of the show for that last hour, and that's bad. Like, your last hour, you're still asking people to sit through 3 hours of the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you could give us an indicator that at 10 o'clock we should start turning it off because you're going to put all the crap you don't care about at the last hour, then great. Please let us know so we can turn it off too.
Yeah.
But if you're asking us to watch that third hour, if everything on that third hour was lackluster, then that's what you're going to remember for the most part. And yeah, but some good build in the triple threat match of SummerSlam. Interesting stuff with the tag team division right now, at least with 2 feuds going on. But everything else is kind of just, there.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think, we may have a better show next week. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't, the best for sure. Well, guys, if you want to come find all of our great content like this, maybe you enjoyed this Raw review, you want to hear the next one, SmackDown Live review and 205 Live review will be coming for you tomorrow, as well as we'll have an NXT review later on this week. We'll also have our other shows like Part 1 and Part 2 of Wrestling to the Max you need to go check out. Hey, and how you do that is you go to W2Mnet.com, or maybe you want to go check out and just find us through the podcasting apps. Well, maybe you want to go on Apple Podcasts or any other place and search out Wrestling to the Max. Of course, rate, review, and of course, make sure you also do it for the W2M Network if you have. Great, thanks a lot. And if you haven't, make sure you do it now. Also, YouTube, don't forget about that. It's also another great place to go subscribe to. So, plenty of places to go find us. We always love hearing from you guys. Make sure you put comments on Wrestling to the Max on Facebook. That always gives us an understanding that you guys, may or may not have liked something, or maybe you just have your opinions you want to spout out. We want to see them all. But yeah, that's it for our Raw review. Until next time, guys, I'm Gary Vaughan. He is Sean Garmer, and we will catch you guys down the road.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.